If you want calmer, happier kids, I've got something exciting I want to share with you. I'm hosting a brand new free masterclass sharing a natural approach to supporting your child's mood, sleep, and behaviour. It's totally free. It's happening on Tuesday, the 29th of April, and I would love to see you there. This masterclass is perfect for you if your child struggles with big emotions, angry outbursts, meltdowns, or anxiety. If you want to support your neurodivergent child's mood, sleep, and behaviour. If sleep is a challenge for your child, whether it's falling asleep, staying asleep, or those early wake-ups. And if you're tired of Googling and guessing and you want natural, effective solutions that actually work. Come along to this free masterclass to discover simple, natural strategies to help your child feel calmer, sleep better, and have fewer meltdowns. Head on over to naturalsuperkids.com/calm to find out all of the details and to save your spot. I'll see you there. Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Natural Super Kids podcast. Jessica Donovan here. It is lovely to have you tuning in today. I hope you're having a great day. Now, we're talking today about mood, sleep, and behaviour and what your child's mood, sleep, and behaviour might be telling you. So one of the common kind of questions and themes that comes up is this normal? Or is there something that I need to dig into deeper? And look, it's really hard to answer that question. You know, our kids aren't robots. There's all sorts of things that can impact our children's mood, their sleep, and their behaviour, just as there's so many things that can impact our mood and sleep and behaviour as adults. And of course, children are still learning to regulate their emotions. Many adults are still learning. I think it's a lifelong practice, isn't it? Regulating your emotions. And so it's really hard to decipher, like, is this normal developmentally or is there a problem here? But regardless of the answer to that question, there are certainly things that we can do and certainly things that I want you to know that can impact our kids' mood, sleep, and behaviour. You know, our nutrition and gut health and those sorts of things. So that's what we're going to be diving into a little bit more today. So if your child's having frequent meltdowns, they're struggling to fall asleep, they're riding an emotional rollercoaster every day and you're there riding it right next to them, it can be so confusing, it can be exhausting. It's one of the hardest parts of parenting, right? But in this episode, I really want to help you to understand what your child's mood, sleep, and behavior might mean and some of the things that you can do to, balance it out. As I said, we do not expect our kids to behave perfectly, be in a good mood, and sleep through the night all the time. Like, that's just not realistic. It's just not the human experience. There's so much to improving these things and regulating these areas. And, we all have bad days, just like our kids have bad days. But we want to sort of go beyond those surface symptoms and talk about some of the underlying things that can impact our kids' mood, sleep, and behaviour that often get overlooked. So I want to start by talking about some of the common concerns that we hear from parents, because I feel like, if you're listening to this episode, you're probably having challenges when it comes to your kids' mood, their sleep, or their behaviour. And so sometimes it can feel lonely in that. But I want you to know that you are not alone. We have lots of parents in our community that are struggling with their kids winding down at night. That can be so exhausting. At the end of the night, you just want to get to relax yourself, and your kid's taking 3 hours to fall off to sleep. Like, that is hard. A lot of parents will report that their child goes from happy to furious and angry in a couple of seconds. So that's really common too. And the other sort of really common theme we hear from parents is that kids are sensitive, they're clingy, they're anxious, which can all be really, like, they can take its toll on you as a parent when your child is like that. And that can be, just certain kids are more like that, those highly sensitive children, those children that tend towards being clingy and anxious. I certainly have or had one of those children when my kids were younger. I feel like I had, a constant companion, and sometimes it makes you feel claustrophobic, like you just want to have some space to breathe. So I just want to, I want you to know that I get it, and I also want you to know that you're not alone. So when we recently sort of surveyed our audience, you guys, podcast listeners, email subscribers, Instagram followers, some of the really common things that came up as big challenges in the space of mood, sleep, and behaviour were defiance, angry outbursts, impulse control, emotional regulation, meltdowns, tantrums, kids not listening, the kids not getting enough sleep, and then that affecting their mood and behavior, that aggression, trouble regulating their emotions. I think I already said that. And another theme that comes through really regularly is how it links to digestive symptoms. So we had one person in our audience say that when they're not pooping regularly because of this ongoing issue with constipation, it leads to them being irritable. And that, I think that's common. And for someone to actually be aware of that is great, because I think a lot of people aren't putting those two things together. But as we will talk about today, digestive symptoms and gut health in general have a huge part to play in our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior. Yeah, so lots of defiance, lots of, not listening, swearing, which I guess is an act of defiance as well. So I want you to know you're not alone. I know I've said that a few times, but I really want that to sink in, and that your child, that there are things that we can dig into to help to start to improve these things. As I said, kids have big feelings, but when mood, sleep, and behavior start impacting your family's daily life, it's worth looking deeper, even if it is normal developmentally, or a normal range of emotions. It can still take its toll, and there are certainly things that we can do in terms of nutritional interactions, I guess, or interventions, I should say, lifestyle changes, environmental factors that we can make changes in terms of improving all of these things that we are talking about. So yes, a lot of this can be behavioural, but it can also be linked to biology, to nutrition, to lifestyle, and to environment. So let's have a little talk about some key areas that commonly affect our kids' mood, sleep, and behaviour. And the first one I want to talk about is gut health. We've talked about gut health and its link with mood, sleep, and behaviour previously on the podcast, but I do want to revisit that. So if you haven't heard me talk about it, or heard this phrase before, or thought, even this link between mood, sleep, and behavior and gut health, I want you to know about the gut-brain connection. So the gut and the brain are linked to each other and communicate with each other via the vagus nerve. And this is a two-way sort of communication. So the gut microbes are talking to the brain and the brain is talking to the gut. Isn't that just fascinating? And the gut microbiome, so the ecosystem within the gut of all the bacteria that is so important for our kids' overall well-being, has a huge part to play in the production of neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters are the chemicals that are impacting our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior. So things like dopamine, GABA, serotonin, melatonin, just to name a few. And so when our children have digestive symptoms or their gut health is out of balance or out of whack, which can occur even when there are no obvious digestive symptoms, it is impacting their ability to produce a healthy level of neurotransmitters. So a lot of these neurotransmitters that affect our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior are actually produced within the gut. And then they are acting, at various parts of the body and in the brain and massively affecting our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior. If we think about melatonin as an example, melatonin is the neurotransmitter that helps us to go off to sleep, and so you'll hear of a lot of kids that take melatonin to help them get off to sleep. So our body naturally produces more melatonin as the day goes on. And there's lots of things that can impact that production of melatonin. And one of those things is gut health. And so a lot of our melatonin is impacted by the state of our gut, and the same for our children. So yes, melatonin can be helpful for some kids to take to help them sleep, because let's face it, if our kids aren't sleeping well, then their mood and behavior is going to be hugely affected. I know if I don't sleep well, I'm grumpy and moody the next day. And it's the same for our kids. So sleep is paramount, is foundational for happy and calm kids. And so we want them to sleep, but there are things that we can do, such as working on our kids' gut health and their gut balance, that can improve their natural production of melatonin and the way that melatonin acts in their body, as opposed to just taking a melatonin supplement or medication. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just want to say it's a bigger picture than just let's just give our kids melatonin so that they sleep better. So that's just one example of a neurotransmitter. And bringing it back to the fact that all of our kids' neurotransmitters that affect their mood, sleep, and behavior are impacted and produced. A lot of them are produced within the gut. So gut health is hugely important when it comes to our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior. Not to mention, if we've got an uncomfortable tummy, if there's constipation at play, our kids are going to be irritable. They're going to be moody. None of us feel good when we've got digestive symptoms happening. So there's that kind of going on as well. So gut health, hugely important. The second thing I want to talk about is nutrition, of course. So nutrition has a part to play in our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior in a variety of different ways, from blood sugar balance. So when our kids are, when their blood sugar is all over the place, when it's up and down because of the foods that they're eating, mainly because of the macronutrient balance they're eating, that balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So many kids are eating way too many carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, and too much sugar, and that is impacting their blood sugar balance. And when our blood sugar balance is up and down, that has a huge impact on mood and sleep and behavior. For example, going back to sleep, if our kids' blood sugar levels are crashing or reducing when they're asleep, that can cause them to wake up. And so blood sugar balance is huge. And the other sort of important thing to talk about when it comes to nutrition are the micronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals, and nutrient deficiencies that can be at play when it comes to mood, sleep, and behavior challenges. Things like zinc and magnesium and iron. Omega-3s are really important for brain health, for lots of different things that can impact our kids' mood, sleep, and behavior. So blood sugar balance, nutrient deficiencies, these are things that we want to take note of and be aware of when it comes to kids that are having issues with their mood, sleep, and behavior. And then the third thing that I want to mention is lifestyle and environment. So we are living, our modern world is so different than, how we would be living more naturally, if you like. And so, there's screens, there's artificial light, there's the busy schedules that we are all we all often fall in the trap of, and our kids have really busy schedules, that lack of downtime, that lack of time out in nature. Sleep routines are, can be impacted and can be part of this lifestyle and environment. For example, lots of kids are playing sport late or have activities late. So then they're not, then they need time to wind down and get to sleep. And lots of kids just aren't getting enough sleep. And then the quality of their sleep is affected hugely by screen time, by diet, just to name a few things. And this all has a huge a huge impact on their nervous system regulation, which affects their mood, their sleep, and their behavior. So when we are struggling with what is going on with my child's mood, their sleep, or their behavior, I want you to take a step back and see the challenge that's happening at the moment as some sort of communication, a message. What is this telling me? It's not that your child is trying to be, hard work or defiant. It's no fun for kids to be defiant, for them either. And so we want to view mood, sleep, and behavioural challenges that we're seeing in our kids as communication, and get curious rather than, criticizing, what they might be acting out, or how they might be acting. Just like, if you're thinking about parenting, and when we're encouraged in parenting and giving our kids that emotional support, to look underneath the behavior to what is the emotion that is leading to that behavior. In the same way, we can, look at our kids' behavior and think about these things, their nutrition, their lifestyle, their environment, gut health factors that could be contributing to the mood, sleep, or behavior challenge that we are seeing in our child. So I know that I've just sort of glossed over those areas of what we want to think about, but the idea of this podcast is for you to view your child's mood, sleep, or behavioral challenges in a bit of a different light, to slow down, to step back, to think about, what have they eaten today? What have they eaten in the last week? What is that food potentially that is triggering this behavior? How have they slept last night? How much screen time have they had? What sort of, how busy are they? What's their stress levels like? And I know this feels like hard work, but I think just that awareness can give you so much more empathy and patience for what's going on in your child, and can really help you to uncover some of these key factors that are impacting your child's mood, sleep, or behavior. So as well as increased awareness about these things, which is what this podcast episode is all about, there's two things that I have got for you that will be helpful. Number one, if you're listening to this as we are launching this podcast in real time, I want to invite you to my masterclass that is happening this week. It's a brand new masterclass. It's called Calmer, Happier Kids, a Natural Approach to Supporting Your Child's Mood, Sleep, and Behaviour. It's totally free. I will pop the link in the show notes and you can sign up. So I'm going to be diving deeper into these areas that impact our children's mood, sleep, and behaviour. If you are interested in knowing more, I'd love to see you there. If you are listening to this podcast after I've run this free masterclass, then I still have something for you. It is our 3 breakfast recipes to support your child's mood, sleep, and behavior. It is, again, totally free. And this is a really good start to improve those nutritional factors and your child's blood sugar balance right from the start of the day. And this can make a huge difference and have a huge positive impact on your child's mood, sleep, and behavior. So this is our 3 breakfast recipes. It's a free ebook. I'll make sure the link to that is in the show notes for you as well. I really hope that this episode has helped you gain a bit more awareness about what might be underlying these challenges you're having with your kids' mood, sleep, and behavior. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.